The 2026 FIFA World Cup was supposed to be a celebration of everything football claims to represent: unity, opportunity, inclusion. A tournament bigger than anything the sport had ever seen before. 48 nations, 3 host countries, millions of traveling fans, billions watching around the globe. FIFA described it as the most global World Cup in history. But before the tournament had even properly begun, one story emerged that raised a question nobody expected to ask. What happens when football's biggest tournament welcomes the world, but one of its own officials isn't allowed through the front door? His name is Omar Artan, a referee from Somalia, a man who spent years climbing one of the hardest ladders in world football, a man selected by FIFA itself to officiate at the biggest tournament on earth. Yet when he arrived in the United States, the country hosting most of the World Cup matches, he was detained, questioned for hours, and ultimately sent back home. No red card, no scandal, no suspension, no disciplinary issue, just a shocking end to a dream that had taken an entire lifetime to build. And what happened next would create one of the most remarkable football stories of the year. Because while FIFA appeared unable or unwilling to change the situation, Europe responded in a way that turned Omar Artan from a forgotten victim of circumstance into a symbol recognized across the football world. To understand why this story matters, you first have to understand where Omar Artan came from. Somalia is not a country usually associated with football success. For decades, the nation has faced enormous challenges, including conflict, instability, and limited sporting infrastructure. The pathway to becoming an elite football referee is difficult anywhere. In Somalia, it can feel almost impossible. Yet Artan refused to accept limitations. Year after year, he worked his way through local competitions, regional tournaments, and continental matches. His performances earned recognition. His professionalism earned trust. His consistency earned opportunities. In 2018, he became a FIFA-listed referee, placing him among a select group of officials trusted to handle international matches. For many referees, reaching FIFA status would be the achievement of a lifetime. For Artan, it was only the beginning. His reputation continued to grow. Then came a breakthrough moment that made history. In 2024, he became the first Somali referee ever selected to officiate at the Africa Cup of Nations. It was a landmark achievement not only for him, but for an entire nation that rarely sees itself represented on football's biggest stages. Suddenly, young Somali referees had proof that the impossible could be achieved. Artan wasn't simply building a career anymore, he was becoming a symbol of possibility. Then in 2025, the Confederation of African Football awarded him its highest recognition for an official, naming him Africa's best male referee. That award changed everything. FIFA took notice. Football observers took notice. The world took notice. And when FIFA announced its referee selections for the 2026 World Cup, Omar Artan's name appeared on the list. History had been made once again. He would become one of the first Somali officials ever involved in a senior men's FIFA World Cup. For his family, his country, and supporters across Africa, it was a moment of pride. The years of sacrifice had paid off. The dream was real. At least that's what everyone believed. In early June 2026, Artan boarded a flight toward the United States. He carried the documents FIFA required. He carried his visa. He carried proof of his profession. Most importantly, he carried the expectation that he was about to participate in football history. What happened after landing in Miami shocked the football world. Instead of being welcomed as a FIFA-appointed World Cup official, Artan was reportedly detained for extensive questioning. Hours passed. Questions continued. According to reports, officials asked about Somalia, his background, and various security concerns. He presented his documentation. He explained his role. He showed evidence of his international refereeing career. None of it changed the outcome. After approximately 11 hours, his journey ended not at a World Cup training camp, but on a return flight. He was denied entry and sent back. Just like that, years of preparation disappeared. The World Cup that he had spent a lifetime chasing was over before it had begun. News of the incident spread rapidly. Fans struggled to understand how a referee chosen by FIFA for the tournament itself could be prevented from entering the host nation. Critics questioned the planning process. Others asked whether FIFA should have anticipated such complications. Supporters of Artan expressed outrage, while government officials and football organizations tried to understand what had happened. FIFA eventually confirmed that Artan would not participate in the tournament. The organization emphasized that host nations ultimately control entry decisions, and that immigration matters fall under the authority of sovereign governments. Legally, that explanation made sense. Practically, however, it raised difficult questions. If FIFA could select a referee but could not guarantee that referee's ability to attend the tournament, what did that say about the relationship between football governance and host country policies? The issue quickly became larger than one individual. It became a debate about access, fairness, and the realities of hosting a truly global sporting event in an increasingly complex political environment. For many observers, the image was difficult to ignore. A man considered good enough to referee the world's biggest football matches had been judged unable to enter the country where those matches would take place. Whether one viewed the situation through the lens of security, immigration policy, or sporting fairness, the symbolism was impossible to miss. Yet the story did not end there. In many ways, it was only beginning. While football fans debated FIFA's response, another organization was quietly preparing its own. UEFA, European football's governing body, watched events unfold. Then came an announcement that instantly changed the conversation. UEFA revealed that Omar Artan would officiate the UEFA Super Cup, one of European football's most prestigious annual matches. The appointment was historic. Artan would become the first African referee to take charge of a major UEFA final. Suddenly, the man who had been excluded from the World Cup was being handed one of the biggest matches of his career. The symbolism was powerful. UEFA President Alexander Ceferin praised Artan's achievements and experience, emphasizing that football should connect people rather than divide them. The message resonated far beyond refereeing circles. Many interpreted the appointment as a statement of support. Others viewed it as a reminder that sporting merit should remain at the center of football's decisions. Whatever the intention, the impact was undeniable. The football world began talking not only about what had happened to Artan, but also about how different organizations had responded. The contrast was striking. FIFA had largely emphasized legal realities and host government authority. UEFA had chosen public recognition and opportunity. Neither approach changed what had happened in Miami. But one offered a new chapter. The other felt like an ending. As debate intensified, Artan himself responded with remarkable composure. Rather than launching attacks or fueling controversy, he remained calm. He thanked those who supported him. He spoke about focusing on future opportunities. That reaction earned him even greater respect. Around Somalia, he was welcomed home as a hero. Crowds gathered. Officials celebrated him. People who had followed his journey saw him not as someone defeated by circumstances, but as someone who had represented their country with dignity under extraordinary pressure. In many ways, the support he received transformed the narrative. Instead of being remembered solely as the referee denied entry to the World Cup, he became known as the referee who handled disappointment with grace and emerged stronger than before. Yet the broader questions remained. Because Artan's case did not exist in isolation, the 2026 World Cup had already become associated with debates surrounding travel restrictions, immigration procedures, security measures, ticket prices, climate concerns, and geopolitical tensions. Several national teams and supporters from different regions reported difficulties related to travel and entry requirements. Human rights organizations raised concerns about accessibility. Fans worried about affordability. Environmental groups criticized the tournament's scale and travel demands. None of these issues alone defined the World Cup. Together, however, they created a backdrop against which the Artan story gained even greater significance. It became a symbol of a larger conversation about what a global tournament should look like in the modern era. Football often describes itself as the world's game. The World Cup presents itself as a celebration of humanity's shared passion for sport. Yet events like this force difficult questions. Can a tournament truly belong to the entire world if barriers prevent some participants from attending? How should governing bodies balance respect for national sovereignty with commitments to inclusivity? What responsibilities do host countries have when welcoming an event built on international participation? There are no easy answers. Governments have legitimate security responsibilities. Sporting organizations operate within legal realities. Yet football also carries ideals that millions of people believe in deeply. The tension between those realities and those ideals sits at the center of this story. Perhaps that is why Omar Artan's experience resonated so strongly. It wasn't simply about a referee, it was about the collision between aspiration and reality. A man did everything required of him. He earned recognition through performance. He followed the rules. He achieved excellence. Yet circumstances beyond his control still prevented him from reaching the destination he had earned. That's a story people understand whether they follow football or not. It's a story about effort, opportunity, disappointment, and resilience. And maybe that's why the UEFA appointment felt so meaningful, because it restored something that many believed had been unfairly taken away. Not the World Cup itself, which could never be replaced, but the recognition that Artan's achievements deserved. When he walks onto the field for a major UEFA final, he won't simply be representing himself. He will represent every young referee who dreams of reaching the highest level. He will represent Somalia. He will represent African football. And he will represent the idea that setbacks do not have to define a person's story. In the years ahead, the 2026 World Cup will likely be remembered for great goals, dramatic matches, and unforgettable moments on the pitch. That is the nature of football. The game ultimately takes center stage. But certain stories survive long after trophies are lifted. Stories that reveal something deeper about the sport and the world surrounding it. Omar Artan's journey is one of those stories. It reminds us that football is not only about what happens during 90 minutes. It is also about people, about dreams, about barriers, about resilience, and about the way individuals respond when those barriers appear. The image of Artan boarding a flight home after being denied entry could have been the final chapter of his career's defining story. Instead, because of his response and because of the support he received, it became the beginning of a new one. A story not of exclusion, but of perseverance. Not of rejection, but of recognition. Not of defeat, but of dignity. And perhaps that is the ultimate lesson. Football cannot solve every political problem. It cannot erase every border. It cannot eliminate every disagreement between nations. But it can choose how it responds when one of its own faces adversity. In Omar Artan's case, that response created a moment that transcended refereeing and transcended the World Cup itself. It became a reminder that while doors can close unexpectedly, others can open in ways nobody imagined. The World Cup stage was taken away from him. Yet another historic stage appeared in its place. Different, unexpected, but historic nonetheless. And when Omar Artan walks out to officiate one of European football's biggest matches, millions will know exactly why that moment matters. Not because of controversy alone, but because of the journey that led there. A journey marked by sacrifice, disappointment, perseverance, and ultimately respect. In a sport obsessed with winners and losers, perhaps that is the most powerful victory of all.